Bruno Mars has always lived under bright lights, but in 2025 he finally spoke about the shadows he's carried with him since childhood. In a rare emotional interview, he broke his silence about the rumors surrounding his massive gambling debt with MGM, his breakup with Jessica Caban after 14 years together, and the buried truth he said he had avoided facing for most of his life. What he revealed made people rethink the perfect image they believed they knew. Born Peter Gene Hernandez on October 8, 1985, in Honolulu, Hawaii, he grew up far from the glamorous world he later conquered. His home in Kalihi was cramped, with 7 people squeezed into a tiny house. His mother, Bernadette San Pedro Bayo, had immigrated from the Philippines and found work as a hula dancer. His father, Peter Hernandez, a Brooklyn-born percussionist, scraped together gigs to support them. Music wasn't decoration, it was survival. The home pulsed with reggae, doo-wop, R&B, and Elvis classics. One of Bruno's uncles impersonated Elvis and put a microphone in his hands when he was just 3 years old. Wearing a miniature jumpsuit, he walked onto a stage with no fear and no hesitation. By 4, he was performing 5 nights a week in his family's band, the Love Notes, at hotels around Waikiki. Tourists called him Little Elvis. Locals stared in disbelief. He wasn't just talented, he held the room like someone born to do it. But while the applause grew louder, the family was barely scraping by. His father played the roles of manager, driver, promoter, and stern taskmaster. Bruno learned drums, piano, ukulele, and guitar before most kids learned multiplication. They weren't just hobbies, they were lifelines. Even with constant shows, the money fell short, and the family eventually relied on welfare. When Bruno was 6, everything came apart. His parents split, and the separation was more than emotional, it was physical and harsh. Bruno and his brother stayed with their father, while the rest of the family went with their mother. Without steady income, Bruno and his dad drifted from place to place. Sometimes they slept in the back of a van, sometimes in rundown buildings. At one point they spent 2 years living in an abandoned bird zoo called Paradise Park, where the nights were cold, the floors were covered with straw, and there wasn't even a working bathroom. He later said there were nights when they didn't know where their next meal would come from, but he always knew he would keep playing music. By 10, he had already performed more than 200 shows a year. The stage was his school, and applause was the closest thing he had to stability. But when his parents officially divorced in 1997, the last hints of a normal childhood vanished. Bruno and his father ended up living in a van again, showering wherever they could, surrounded by rats and the metallic smell of rust. At 12, he began performing on Honolulu's streets to survive, impersonating Elvis and Michael Jackson to earn whatever tips he could. On good days he made $50 or $100, enough to eat, enough to keep going. People mocked him, ignored him, brushed past him. Still he sang. He smiled. He didn't have another choice. At 14, Bruno left Hawaii for Los Angeles with one dream. Music would save him. He dropped out of school and entered a city that didn't care who he was. He slept on couches, worked odd jobs, and went hungry more often than he admitted. He never told his mother how bad things got. He didn't want to hurt her. Friends recalled seeing him walk into studios wearing the same clothes, looking exhausted and underfed, but never complaining. At 18, Uptown Records signed him, not as a singer but as a songwriter. A year later they dropped him. Industry gatekeepers told him he was too this or not enough that. He felt invisible again, but he kept writing. In 2009 he co-wrote Right Round, which sold nearly 7 million copies, though few people knew he had anything to do with it. He formed the Smeezingtons with Philip Lawrence and Ari Levine soon after, working from tiny rooms with borrowed gear. One of the demos they created was Just the Way You Are, a song that didn't sound like a worldwide hit at first, but felt true. By 2010, Bruno finally signed with Atlantic Records as a solo artist. When Just the Way You Are dropped, it spread like wildfire. It hit #1 in 17 countries and sold millions. But success didn't erase his struggles. In 2010, he was arrested in a Las Vegas bathroom for cocaine possession. He pleaded guilty, completed probation, paid fines, and attended counseling. The incident didn't end his career, but it forced a pause in the image he was building. Hits like Grenade and his Grammy wins pushed him forward, but the weight behind his smile was heavier now. Rumors later swirled about gambling. some saying he lost $50 million. In reality, he confirmed losing $50,000 in one night, but the gossip stuck. Behind the scenes, he kept pushing himself, sometimes too hard. On tour, he once fractured his ankle mid-performance and finished the show without telling anyone. And at the 2014 Super Bowl halftime show, he performed for over 115 million viewers, opening with a drum solo dedicated to his mother, who had passed away the year before. In 2021, he and Anderson .Paak formed Silk Sonic, pouring millions into creating a 1970s soundstage aesthetic. Their debut stunned the world. Their Grammy sweep turned them into legends. Then, unexpectedly, Bruno announced he would stop submitting his work for Grammy consideration, saying it was time for others to shine. In 2025, the public saw cracks in his personal life. After 14 years together, he and Jessica Caban ended their relationship. She quietly removed photos from social media, leaving subtle clues about the breakup. Bruno didn't give details, but friends hinted at pressure and emotional strain. His writing during that period shifted, grittier, more exposed. His Las Vegas residency continued breaking records, pulling in millions per show, using advanced technology like an LED stage wired to his heartbeat. Fans saw both spectacle and vulnerability. In one show, he paused to talk about sleeping on floors as a child and dedicated a song to those struggling. The clip went viral. But even as his public success grew, Bruno revealed private battles. He admitted he had struggled with gambling over the years, losing far more than he ever wanted to admit. He confessed that sobriety had not been a straight line, and that the breakup made maintaining balance even harder. He poured his energy into giving back, donating money to youth programs in Hawaii, and planning a music school for kids who couldn't afford instruments. He also turned down a $20 million offer to record a James Bond theme because the producers wanted creative control. For him, ownership mattered more than money. In the same interview, he said something that stayed with people long after. "I sang to forget I was poor. Now I perform to remember who I am." It was the clearest glimpse into the man behind the legend. A reminder that behind the gold suits and explosive shows is someone still holding on to the past that shaped him.